Namaste, Namo Buddhaya. Good morning to you all. Most respected dignitaries here present on the dais, dignitaries in the auditorium, most respected and venerable heads of the Sangha who are present here in the auditorium, heads of various religious orders, academicians, scholars, philosophers, diplomats, and friends. This is indeed a very rare and unique occasion to have a dialogue of this nature, the Hindu-Buddhist dialogue. And there cannot be any better place than Thailand to host this event, as Thailand truly epitomizes a syncretism of different traditions. And as Honorable Minister Shri Kiren Rijiju mentioned, a pure syncretism of Buddhism and Hinduism which have existed, intertwining with each other for centuries in this beautiful country. The subject of conflict avoidance is extremely critical. As many speakers mentioned, there is a lot of work which has been done on conflict resolution. There are think tanks, there are academic establishments, there are universities, there are international organizations who have done a lot of work on conflict resolution involving topics like repatriation, reconstruction, rehabilitation, protracted negotiation, etc. But once a conflict happens, we all know that it leaves an indelible impression in the minds of generations. There's an element of hatred, there's an element of difference which is created, which never ends. So the exercise here and the effort here at Samvad is to reach a stage where you avoid conflict. You don't go into conflict. As our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi mentioned, that conflicts occur primarily because of differences between individuals, between parties, where there is disagreement. One does not want to listen to the other, and there is this insisting viewpoint of, I am right, you are wrong. I remember this is something which Sri Gurumurti had also mentioned in the media conclave back in New Delhi. The concept of I am right, you are wrong, and I'm not listening to you. This is where one can get a lot of content and material from Asian philosophies. We had speakers here mention about Buddha Dhamma and Hindu philosophy. The Buddha sought enlightenment primarily to get the world rid of suffering and pain, and hence to do away with war, conflict, strife. His teachings, which are in the form of Dhamma, which are known as Dhamma, are available in the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. I won't get into the details because many of our venerable monks have spoken about that. The essence of his teaching is right speech, Sama Vacha, and right action, Sama Kamanta. He also talks about the four Brahma Viharas, that is Metta. Metta means loving kindness. Mudita, that is sympathetic joy. Karuna, that is compassion. And Upekha, which is equanimity. These four elements, along with right speech, right action, and mindfulness, enables an individual to move from a position of self-centeredness to a position where he views the world and every object, living, non-living, in a compassionate manner. This is the underlying philosophy of Buddha Dhamma. Likewise, Ahimsa remains the critical node in Hindu philosophy, which teaches us the aspect of living in harmony with the world and all the beings in this world. Speakers have spoken about the element of dharma, rightful conduct, ethical conduct, the role of karma, which is a good deed. They have spoken about the concept of one world, one family. These are all elements which are available in Asian philosophies, which need to be brought forward now at this juncture. When we talk about sustainability, Buddha attained his enlightenment under a Bodhi tree. He gave his first sermon to his 5 disciples in a forest in Deer Park, the Dhammachakra Pravatana. And the Buddha always mentioned that the nature will give you back what you give to the nature. Now imagine this being said by an individual 2,600 years ago, when there was no problem of climate change, there was no pollution, there were no cars, there was no industries, there was no carbon footprint. But he said it 2,600 years back, that the nature will give you back what you give to the nature. And those words remain more relevant today, and they're going to be more relevant in the years to come. That is the depth and the essence of teaching of Buddha Dhamma. There is a whole range of scriptures written on the critical balance needed between man and nature. I wish universities, think tanks, academic institutions dig deep into these philosophical aspects. In Hindu philosophy, of course, the earth is treated as mother goddess, and the nature is considered as a manifestation of the divine. So, a synthesis of the teachings of the Buddha and the elements of Hindu philosophy clearly bring out that if these are practiced in a diligent manner, we are going to be able to create a society, a community, a country, and a world which will be clear about how to deal with nature and how to deal with conflict. I wish this event every success. But while ending, I would like to just mention one line which our Honorable Prime Minister often mentions. He says in Hindi or in Sanskrit, "Humne duniya ko yudh nahi budh diya hai," which translates into English as, "We have given the world the Buddha, but no conflict, no war, no strife." Namo Buddhaya, Namaskar. Thank you very much.